Thank you to be back. I was just finishing my coffee break. Sun shining outside. It's sometimes difficult to be back working, but it's live. So thanks very much to be with us again after this fresh air, some coffee, and just some information. You have been asking us if these topics were covered on some trainings at EIPM. Yes, we're covering all these different topics and much more during our courses, during certification programs, so on and so forth. So you can go and you ask question on info, EIPM at info. So let's jump in the second topic, so which is investing in new technologies. Everybody's speaking about new technologies. Before COVID crisis, new technology have been already investigated by purchasing and supply chain, such as technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, IoT, big data. This is not new. We have been working on how these technologies can help purchasing procurement. COVID crisis has just been an accelerator of the importance of these technologies into purchasing tools, into roles, purchasing roles, into process, the organization. The main point, in fact, is which technology are we investing on? Why? What purchasing organizations are expecting from this new technology? What will be the role of purchasing professionals? And all these ideas, which were already starting before the crisis, has been accelerating during the crisis. For this second topic, I'm very pleased to welcome as first speaker Edilson Bernabes. Ed is from Brazil, so bon dia, Edilson. He's professor of supply chain at West Virginia University in the States. He published a book called Digital Supply Chain Network. EIPM started working with school, with the university, and with Ed on IoT, Internet of Things, some time ago, and we go on working. So, Edilson, the floor is.
Welcome, really happy to have you with us today. You recently published a book on digital supply network. So what is the difference between yesterday supply network and tomorrow digital supply network?
Well, that is a fantastic question to get us started. So we can think about the traditional supply network in terms of the SCORE model. I think the SCORE model is very familiar to a lot of people in the field. So we have this buy, make, and move. So the model captures the idea of the traditional supply chain, which would be this sequential, linear flow of information and decisions and activities. As we move to a digital supply network, the mindset is very different. So the mindset starts being one of collaboration, of a real-time integration. So a digital supply network really is a set of interconnected capabilities enabled digitally to allow us to do things very differently than what we have been used to do before. So it's a movement from this more linear mindset to a mindset where everything is interconnected. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very clear. Thanks a lot. Could you provide us some example of what companies are doing in terms of implementing these digital supply network?
Yeah, I can provide a couple of them. So the first one is one that I like very much because it combines a lot of these technologies. And for me and for I think digital transformation is really about leveraging these technologies to do things very different. And I like this example a lot because of that. So there was a proof of concept a few months back where an aircraft took off from New Zealand, and midair they identified a problem on a first class seat. So that is very costly to bring an aircraft back with that seat empty. So the crew communicated that problem to the ground, on the way to LAX in the US. In the ground, the crew contacted a supplier in Singapore. This supplier moved or sent the digital inventory to California, arriving there to another supplier that used the 3D printing to print that part. So when the aircraft landed in the LAX, the part was already there, ready to put in the aircraft, and without any additional time, the aircraft had the problem fixed and came back with the seat available. So it's a combination of cloud with blockchain, with 3D printing, and so some of these new disruptive technologies, and show us that we can do things very differently. So we're talking about digital inventory. It's just a global supply chain. We have a carrier in one country, a supplier in a very different country. The 3D printing happening in yet a different country. So I think this is a nice example. Now there are other examples. Alibaba, for instance, they have this Sanxi factory, which has they have digitized completely, and they leverage the AI to help small and medium-sized companies to predict what they're going to need in the fashion industry, garment and fashion industry, which is a very complex supply chain, and you typically have to make decisions 6, sometimes 7 months ahead of time. And they have shrunk that, allowing small and medium-sized companies to make these decisions in a much shorter span of time. And the factory is completely flexible because of the digital. So it's a combination of a digital factory with this AI-powered analytics that allows the Sanxi factory to help their customers to forecast more precisely what will be needed, and allows also the typically small and medium-sized companies. They have some contact, very close contact with their customers. So it allows that information to be brought into the mix to help them make decisions. So there are many other examples. So I'll keep it these two, but you can go on.
Okay, no, that's really interesting. Thanks a lot for that. I think, the first one is very much about the, let's say, the after sales, when the plane is already like operating. The other one was very much about manufacturing and how you bring the consumer data to some factories. Do you have any examples? Maybe it could be useful to look at some of the design activities.
Well, there are a couple of them, and there is one particularly that I like because it's an area that is of great interest to myself, and I have some background in that area. So it's something happening here in the US with the US Air Force, actually. But it started with a partnership between Boeing and Saab when they developed this project, the T-7 Red Hawk, which is a trainer jet for the Air Force. And this aircraft was fully, the development was fully digitized. So they used the digital threading. In other words, the designers, they created a digital twin. It's a very strong, very used term in digital transformation. So they used the digital twin for the jet. And what happened is, it allows you to have all these different parts and components being developed simultaneously. And if you make one change in one system, so it's basically an ecosystem of partners developing this aircraft, right? So you have the major partners, but you have other suppliers in the mix as well. So as you make changes in one part of the system, an AI-based resolution helps you make sure that change is compatible with the rest of the system. And it allows you to develop the aircraft much faster at a much more cost-effective, it's a much more cost-effective strategy. And it allows you also to, so when you buy, the other interesting thing is that the government, mainly the military, they typically have to fly the platform before they commit to purchase a unit. And in this case, you were able to actually see everything about the platform before the first unit for the test platform was built. So it's again another, I think, good example of these transformations that are going on, and entirely based on this digital thread. Again, the digital thread allows all these different partners in the ecosystem to interact, participate real time, and have whatever one does, the others can, the system helps to make sure that the others are, there is compatibility between all the ecosystem with what the partners in the ecosystem are doing. So I think I enjoy this example a lot. There are other examples. I think BMW, it's not necessarily one of development, but they created this venture platform where they bring in different partners to help them to innovate, which is something similar to what the Air Force is doing, or the other way around. And it's based on this internal platform where all these different units across the globe can see and can participate and bring in innovation. So those are two examples that come to mind. We have more, as I said, we have several very interesting things happening in this arena.
So that's really interesting, because we tend to see the world as this chain of events and flows between one company to another. But what you describe here is below the supply chain, there's a data or a digital infrastructure that's going to be evolving in real time. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. So there is a whole digital stack under the surface. And on the bottom line is really data is powering the whole thing. So we talk about digital transformation, and one of the important takeaways of this is that we're not talking about just implementing or deploying technology, but we're leveraging the technology to do things differently. And the way that we leverage this technology is really to think about how we can leverage the data that the technology affords us, the visibility that these technologies allow us. So yeah, so there's a whole digital stack under the hood or under the surface, and they have to we have to coordinate them very carefully, and also this allows us to have this ecosystem of partners coming together, and there will be different ecosystems interacting, and the digital stack is extremely important, how we reconcile, how we assemble them, and the capabilities, of course, that we have to focus on to bring all these different partners in the ecosystem together.
And, you know, we've gone through this epidemic, COVID-19. How is this impacting these evolutions?
Oh, it has accelerated. So we have, there have been a lot of trends already happening in terms of global supply chain, in terms of digitization. A lot of companies, the leaders in different segments, they were already digitizing. But the focus was a little more on the efficiency, on optimization. After the pandemic, or during the pandemic, we came across the reality that, well, you know what, is not just about technology, it's really about data, and it's not about efficiency. We really have to have visibility. We have to have the ability to see what is happening. So we saw a lot of companies struggling because they did not know what was happening in different units, or they did not know which supplier had been affected and how, and so on and so forth. So there was this lack of visibility. And so essentially the pandemic has brought those issues to the forefront and has accelerated digital transformation. So I think we will have, companies have been investing more, even during the pandemic, with a lot of uncertainty. And the focus has changed slightly towards this more visibility rather than just efficiency.
Thank you. Any final advice you would give to, you know, procurement professionals in order to prepare for this future?
Well, the first thing is really to be aware of all these different technologies, their capabilities, their limitations, because it's happening. It doesn't. We don't. There is no way back. We have to understand how these technologies will affect us, and then leverage them. You start thinking about how these technologies can help us, help our companies, help our functions work differently, work better. What kind of value can these technologies bring to our companies? And again, it's not about employing technology, it's about leveraging them to create value.
Thank you very much, Nilsson. Muito obrigado, Ed. Very interesting, very good example, very practical. Just again, showing that a professor can also speak about the reality. So thanks very much, Ed, for this wonderful example. I'm very pleased now to welcome the next speaker, Claes. Claes Lafond de Riverol is VP Indirect in Schneider. Bonjour, Claes. Claes is working today in Schneider. He has been working before in different global companies. What's quite interesting with Claes, he's always been working with company where the digital aspects, the technology aspects was very, very important. So he knows a lot about this information. So Claes, I'm very pleased to welcome you. The floor is
Thank you very much for being here today for this interview, Claes. My first question is within Schneider Electric, what is the contribution of procurement to the digital business transformation?
Thank you for the question, Hervé. Before I answer that question, let me give a little bit of background on Schneider business model. I think that's important to realize that we've moved from a really product-based business model to more of a service-based business model. So today, Schneider Electric is leveraging its park and its assets of products that have been sold over the year by connecting them, so by creating connected product, and this product being a low voltage breaker, drive and actuator, or sensor that are at your customer facility. So connecting them to the world, like the infamous IoT, Internet of Things, and using either the network of the customer, so the his own network, what we call the edge control, or the cloud, to start collecting data from these tools and using this data to bring some value to our customer. And these values might be a better usage of electric consumption, as an example, or chipping in the preventive maintenance of some of the equipment, and also potentially making a little bit of recommendation how to become more sustainable, etc., etc. So that business model really evolved into a business that was product focused to more of a service and potentially consultancy business model using or install based. So when you look at this dynamic, you really need to start thinking how I'm going to collect this data, so through the cloud, how I'm going to make sure that I'm building the right application that are relevant to my customer to help him controlling his consumption of energy, or to become more sustainable, and or to establish a program of preventive maintenance, and how I'm going to be able to provide all of this in a very secure environment. We've heard very lately a lot of case hospital or administration around the world that are being cyber attacked. So that is not acceptable for our customer. So the role of a procurement, on top of building products and providing the material and or the service, is becoming much more integrated within the business by working with the business and or customer solution people to provide the right infrastructure. So setting up the right contract framework with our cloud provider, setting up the right, identifying and setting up the right contract with potential startup that can help us develop any apps that we will use, or even working with the big names of information technology to jointly define a solution that we will provide to our customers. So changing from a supply chain world to really a business driven approach, where we do interact with some products or some services or some cloud and technology that will be used in the solution that we are providing to our final customer.
Thank you. You mentioned cyber attack. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more and provide a concrete example of what you've been doing from a cybersecurity point of view.
Yeah, so that's we've tailored completely the approach that we are taking on cybersecurity. We do not have a one-size-fits-all, and we are not covering all of our suppliers, but we've identified a list of 5,000 suppliers that we've classified around 4 main criteria. So critical supplier and high-risk supplier. And we have roughly 200 suppliers that are in these categories. And we'll come back on what that means for how we work with them. And then we have the next category is moderate suppliers, moderate risk suppliers. So here we are roughly 800 suppliers, and the remaining suppliers, 4,000, are low risk. But as I said earlier, because we do interact with customer now through our supplier or through our product, we are taking an approach that removes completely any risk. So for the critical and the high-risk supplier, we are in a scenario, we are monitoring them real time. We have few partners, a few products that are helping us to do that, and we are really engaged with them. With the highly critical supplier, which are less than 100 suppliers, we are even having some scenario planning with them, and using our security operations center, having some drills where we are trying penetration and making sure that they are reacting appropriately. Of course, we are not doing that with all of suppliers. We are really using the segmentation that we've created to take a tailored and bespoke approach with each and every of them. But the clear message here is that's not something that we can take lightly. We need to segment the supplier base. We need to have a very strong engagement with the critical suppliers. And we need to rely also on certification that are existing with a company like EcoVadis launched really lately scoring on cybersecurity, and making sure that we are addressing each and every suppliers, the one that you've identified, on cybersecurity.
Thanks a lot. We hear more and more people telling that COVID is going to accelerate digitalization, and this is going to push companies to access more technology from outside. What's your view on this, and how is this impacting Schneider Electric?
So use of technology, absolutely. I think we've learned in one day that we could not travel anymore. We could not even go to the office anymore. So we really had to instantaneously almost use tools that we were not used to use, if I may say so, in the past. So if you start looking at how it impacted us and how we play a role, we had to very rapidly become an agile and very responsive organization to support not only the business on the interaction with the customer, but also the way we were interacting with our supplier. I'll take a few examples on some of the product that we are offering to our customer, but also that we are using with our supplier. As simple as when you need to audit or when you need to repair a tool that is in your factory or at the customer location, we introduce virtual tours of factory and/or virtual glasses that enable our technician to stay at this station and to start using the person that is at the supplier and or the customer location using these glasses and guide them through how to do proper maintenance and so on and so forth. I'd like to emphasize also the importance of e-collaboration with the suppliers. We used to be very email driven or visit driven and so on and so forth. And from overnight, we really had to change the way we were working with our suppliers. So the supplier relationship management transformed almost overnight. We had to use tools like Zoom, Teams, you name it, to interact with our supplier. But more importantly, we had to digitize a lot of activity that we take it for granted in the past, like invoices management, like collaborations, messages, virtual audit, and using all the tools that we are provided by supplier relationship management software or systems today to overnight use these devices and under these processes compared to what we used to do. And in that sense, that's accelerating the digitization of the supplier relationship management more than anything else. And of course, that's also increasing the use of cloud solution. And to come back on the previous point, the absolute need for cyber secured solution. That is too many cases today we are hearing again on the TVs or radios of cyber attack, and we just cannot afford that. So overall, it changed the pace. I haven't seen any introduction of things like new blockchains, but that's really helped us accelerating some of the program that we had in the past.
Thank you. I think what's really interesting about Schneider Electric is you've got these collaboration that are going from the startups that are bringing some of this technology to the internet giant who are also both your supplier, partner, and client. So maybe any final advice, success factor you would like to share with the procurement community to succeed in this diverse and extended world?
I think the key, the real key is stop being a procurement organization and be a business partner and speak business, understand the long-term needs of your customer, the customer of the company, and consequently of your stakeholder or colleagues within the organization, and start thinking about how you're going to support them by finding the right startup or by negotiating the right deal. An interesting fact is we have suppliers that are customer of us. The big data center that we are using for cloud solution, they are also big customer of us. So that's also giving more importance on the way you are managing your supplier relationship, because they are not only a supplier, they are big customer for us, which re-emphasizes the fact that you need to have a business mindset and you really need to understand the technology, the solution that your company is selling to your customer, because these customers are also your suppliers. So the dynamic of the procurement framework is changing, and you have taken a much more business approach than the way you used to operate in the past. Product, service, customer. So that's really changing the way we are operating internally, but also externally with our key suppliers, which are also our key customers.
Merci beaucoup, Clyde. Thanks very much, Clyde, for this very interesting presentation. In fact, you brought us back to the what we could call a new reality, this virtual reality. All the tools, devices you explained, presented, it's really bringing us in the new reality we live in, visiting suppliers, audits, and so on and so forth. So thanks to the devices, thanks to the tools, thanks to technologies, we can maintain our reality. So this is very interesting and very, very, very important. So thank you very much, Claes. Let's go now to the third speaker. Our first speaker, I'm very pleased to welcome Marco Avlavam, Marco. So I'm just going to Enrado va Marco. So just Marco is from Slovenia. Everybody is impressed here. Marco is from Slovenia. He's the executive purchasing director in Adria. Before being in Adria, he has been working a lot in automotive industry for several years. Marco is implementing a lot of new ideas in his business.
We wanted in this session to look at the role of procurement in getting access to new technology innovation. And I know you've got some interesting example to share in this field. Could you let us know what this is about?
Well, we were discussing for a long time now inside the company about the possible introduction of digital functionalities to our products. We all know it's an absolutely important feature of nowadays products. And we were wondering how to bring this so-called digital functionality the best way for our customers to our products. This is how we started to analyze all the field of digital and trying to figure out what could be the right products, the right development orientations, what are the functionalities, what are the capabilities, which would really bring added value to our consumer. This is how all it started about.
Okay, thank you. And why is procurement playing a key role in this project in your company? What's your unique contribution from a procurement standpoint?
Well, it is a very complex and comprehensive topic. In fact, in the very beginning, and it's now some, I must think a little bit, some 8 years ago, when we embarked on the journey, we first started to, as I mentioned, to analyze what might be the features, what are the product values, who can be the outside partners bringing us the right knowledge, the right input. So we started by screening the market, what exists, what does not exist, what could be helpful, who are the partners, who has the knowledge about, who can bring us the added value. We in parallel started the research project internally, and we involved some outside institutions, and we went into the broader screening with the potential outside institution. We worked on the kind of prototype mock-up like 7 years ago. And with this, we are starting to build our internal insight into the product, into the field, our internal awareness, our internal knowledge, and all the time it was with outside partners. And all the time we were also testing different suppliers who had, I would say, on the shelf, in the offer or in the potential developments, the various partial solutions which were covering partially what we are looking for. And all this went in big part also through purchasing, steering the relationship with potential outside partners, learning about their capabilities, learning about their strategies, what are their development plans, what are their knowledge, technical, product capabilities, competencies, Are they also fitting in terms, I would say, of customer-supplier or partnership relationship with Adria? All this we were screening, and all this is a job of purchasing. Nobody else can really do it in the most comprehensive way. But on the other hand, it meant also that we had to liaise very narrowly with our technical departments, with our product management department, with our sales, with general management, as well as it is a pure novelty, and this digital is also the untraditional sectors who usually are not involved in the supplier or new product development categories like IT. They were brought in, and they have brought in their part of expertise, their part of judgment, helping to establish the right evaluation of costs, the right evaluation of what are the right knowledges, right capabilities, what is trivial, what is complex, what is new, what is existing, what is on the shelf. So all these things had to be learned through the past. Then we embarked with one supplier solution, which proved not to be very successful. And in parallel, we were maturing the prototype, the maquette we had built 7 years ago together with one institute here in Slovenia. And the team who was working on this vehicle, on the product, on the vehicle, we slowly learned the team, their knowledge, their capabilities. It was a team of researchers from various departments of this technical institute here in Slovenia. And these departments are, in fact, on the top level knowledge, I would say internationally, if not globally. It's on the artificial intelligence, it's on the digital competencies, remote technologies, and all this, and we learned more and more about them. And some 4 years ago, we started to discuss with them, would it be possible to generate together really a commercially viable project. We were with them participating in 2 or 3 European community sponsored projects. And through all this, we built the right knowledge of each other, the right trust of each other. And at one moment in time, we clearly set up the whole framework, and we built the relationship with them. They formalized a spin-off company at the institute, and we embarked in the contractual relationship with this spin-off company. And this is, all these were all the time managed among different departments internally in the company, and it was all the time thoroughly monitored with purchasing or through purchasing, what can be the relationship.
So thanks a lot. That's really very interesting cases. Maybe to summarize, why do you think it was so essential to not just work with an established supplier, but to go to such a spin-off from a university? What were the true benefit that you got out of this?
The true benefits is that we judged, we formed the judgment internally that we would like to have the key influence on all the software and hardware technologies which are involved in the project, that we have to master them internally. That was the main, I would say, the reflection behind. And when you go to, if I say so-called traditional supplier, it was more a bargaining situation. It's a bit more complex, and then some suppliers are strong in hardware, but they are not as strong in software. Suppliers who were approaching maybe haven't shared completely the same vision we have, and then is the question of also data which are generated through this type of products. Who is the owner of the data? Who exploits the data or potentially exploits the data? What can you do with that? And everybody is in a way having a genuine interest in future how to take control of the data, and the question is who generates them, how we share that. And it was pretty difficult to figure out or to define with a traditional approach, supplier customer approach, to really define proper setup. And also the knowledge, the combination of low knowledge which existed is not something which easily exists within an organization. It's the same for our organization. We do not have all the necessary internal, or we haven't had the necessary internal capabilities and knowledge. So you have to take recourse to somebody who is non-traditional, who is completely out of our usual scope of supply market in our industry. We had to go outside our traditional ways. That was simply, I would say, for type of product and solution we are looking to, a must.
Very interesting. So really show how this is allowing you to, retain both technical and some commercial control, but working with, a very unfamiliar and traditional type of a player. Certainly, this required to manage the relationship with great care. So how did you make sure you were progressing with them on the right agenda?
What I already explained, we took quite some years to learn mutually about each other, to learn the knowledge, to develop the understanding, to build a decent level of trust, to be persuaded in the competencies this company, this supplier is bearing with them. And after that, in a way, it was very traditional project management indeed. So it's traditional project management approach after that. They were able to build really detailed master plan and time frame and project plan, properly addressing all the aspects. We have put all that in the contractual relationship, and we shaped the contracts the way it suits this new environment, not just typical supply contract. After that, it was a regular project work and regular milestone tracking. And this milestone tracking, it was done on the project level with the supervision of the project, and different executive directors from our company were involved in the milestone meetings. And then it was thoroughly followed also in our internal general company gate meetings, which we do run every year regularly. So it was, in fact, tightly controlled, tightly monitored from all levels.
Well, thanks a lot. Maybe as a conclusion, we're saying these days that we'll see some acceleration of digital project in the post-COVID period. What did you learn out of such a project, and what would you share with peers in terms of recommendation?
Well, first thing we really learned, you need to know what you're looking for. So you need to take proper time to define what are unmet needs of your customers, and also what are the potentials in technology across industries, not only in your industry or maybe in a scientific field, in research field to figure out how to build then the right product. This is probably the first step. Second is do the necessary screening, and again, go broad enough to find proper partners, to identify where the competencies lie, and you have to be prepared to left behind your traditional frameworks, your traditional criteria, to be able to embark with probably some different type of partners, suppliers. And then you have to develop proper internal alignment with all the stakeholders. It is necessary to develop this alignment to do enough of, I would say, product testing, prototype or maquette testing in order to prove that the concepts you're embarking for are the ones which will really meet the market needs, because at the end of the day, what we are doing is we are developing product to sell to the customers and to make the margin on them. We are not developing for the pleasure of having a research project. But at the end of the day is the margin and is the profitability of the supplier and profitability of our company. It's all the time the same story. And then what was also very key is we had extensive testing and discussion also with the markets through our sales and product management to really steer the proper content of the product, which at the end proves to be a winning field. And we are right now stepping up the use of the product we have developed with this startup company. So volumes are in front of us, and we are pretty sure that also the margins we have been looking for are also.
Voilà, Marco. Thanks very much, Marco, for this very interesting presentation. Interesting for different points. The first point, I was very pleased, honored to see you here because you are one of the MB alumni of the IPM. So this is the first point. The second point is you explain us how to transform some ideas from universities in reality. So interesting to create suppliers, to create a startup with people coming from the university and asking them to be entrepreneur. So there's just one step for in between the entrepreneur and the student. So thanks very much, Marco. I'm very pleased now to go on the last roundtable discussion. We am going to welcome Hervé Legendre, director of the Research Institute at EIPM. He's also director of value creation of the battery. We are going to have Hervé now. So welcome, Hervé. It's yours. Okay, Hervé, you can go now.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Bernard, for the transition. Really happy to be here facilitating this roundtable. There's so many things we're going to be have the opportunity to be talking about. I would like the first question to go to Ed, and very simple. I'd like him to react to what Clydes and Marco have been saying, and also maybe to ask them some question if there's anything you'd be interested to hear from them.
Hello, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here. It's a great opportunity to be among these visionary industry leaders. And I have a question that is, I'll address this question to Clydes. So Clydes mentioned that you advanced this insight that the role of procurement is becoming more integrated inside the business. Marco also commented on the need for a framework about a different framework about relating and engaging suppliers. So my question for Clydes is, how does this impact the training and the skills of procurement officers? And a second question, second part to that question is, how these initiatives induce change in the nature of the organization itself?
Clyde, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm struggling with technology. So for a technology and innovation workshop, quite interesting. Can you hear me okay?
Very good. Excellent.
Oh, sorry, listen, I was playing with different devices. So can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so you talked about during your talk, you mentioned,
Yes.
you proposed this insight that procurement is becoming more integrated inside the organization. So my question for you would be, how these initiatives, actually, it's a two-part question. So the first part is, how does that impact the training and skills required from procurement officers? And then the second part is, how these initiatives are they impact or induce changes in the organization itself?
So very good questions. When we are looking at the type of profile that we need going forward, it's really changing the dynamic individual. We are looking now at, if I was to take an example, we have firmware, we have software that are embedded into the product that we are selling to our customer, and that's something we need to sell as well. So there are twofold. First, the legal requirements are quite different from the normal one that you will have. And then there is also all the commercial aspects that are very different. So you really need to spend time teaching the teams, learning from experience, but also giving new skills when it comes to the legality, what I will call the legality of these new contracts that you need to do, as well as understanding the potential impact on the company and specifically the impact if we do things.
Oh, I think we've just lost you. Oh, you're back.
I think
Yeah. Number of license and how do you manage the issues on the field, so that a brand new skill set that we need to provide to employees. The other part that is very interesting from an organization standpoint, you need now to be, because you need to respond to customer demand in a very dynamic market, and you need to really work closely with your customers. So you need to put a structure that, rather being, I don't like the back office term for procurement and sourcing, but you need to be more on the front office side now with your teams, understanding what. Sorry, guys. What we will need from the customer side. I'm going to change side. Over to you. I'm going to change position.
Thank you, Clyde.
Thank you. Maybe I can go to Marco with a question. Both of you in your videos, you've been insisting on spanning the wings of procurement from a client to startups, unfamiliar partner within a wider ecosystem. So Marco, do we need dedicated people for such jobs, or should it be everybody's responsibility to make that happen?
Well, for this, it's a quite complex question. On one hand, you need to screen as broad as you can. On the other hand, you need the proper competencies. So we, in fact, need to have in our team the right people who are able, first of all, to identify the opportunities, to understand them in the broader business level, to be able to liaise properly with product and sales people, and then to work with supplier and to transform and to formulate the proper product, the proper projects. Yes, I think there are quite specific competencies which are needed and which are far from, I would say, traditional competencies we are heralding or cultivating in purchasing. So it goes much broader.
Okay. So very interesting point of view in terms of the need to have some people capable of doing some specific activities and having some specific capabilities to answer to some of these challenge. Maybe Clyde, if you would be willing to take the same question in terms of do you need dedicated people to work with startups and these internet giants, or is it everybody's role to be able to interact with such companies?
So we are creating new teams and new competencies. You don't act with a startup the same way you will act with a traditional suppliers. They are part of risk. You need to analyze. You need the contracting side as well. So you need a certain set of skill sets that you have to provide, and that's training, but that's also dedicated team. And same way I was mentioning the interface with the customer, you need also to create a different dynamic that really call for this creation of dedicated team to support the business and also the challenges that you are finding with your suppliers.
Thank you. I think, Clyde, you had a question for Marco.
I think, yes, correct. And the dynamic that Marco explained and the end-to-end process, I'll be curious to see how do you, for all the opportunity and the innovation that you bring to your end customer, how do you close the loop and ensure that the feedback from your customer to your supplier is happening to see if it's delivering the value that you were anticipating?
Well, we run very formalized what we call end-to-end project in the process in the company with the innovation clock and the innovation workstream in the very beginning. And through that, we are collecting the insights from the market, from our customer market, very broad insights and also across different markets to identify the right ideas, the right potentials, and then through a stage gate process, we are maturing the ideas. We do run yearly what we call the innovation clock steering committees in order to evaluate different proposals gathered and to do the formalized selection process with that, and then with all kinds of marketing, building maquettes, building prototypes, we are testing and liaising very closely through our product marketing department with our markets, and then with that we try to validate the definitions, the proposals, to fine-tune them, and the utmost or the final judgment really is when you are with the product in the market. But we ensure that before going to engineer the complete product, that we have the right feedback already and the right validation from the market that they are interested in the product or service and keen to push together with us to bring it to the market.
Thank you, Marco. Maybe now I can go to you, Ed. In a world of functional silos, while you need to look broad in terms of ecosystem, you've been giving some examples. So how can companies start to build a vision for a digital future where they can really take into account all of these opportunities?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and I think I'll give a more broader answer. And the reason for that is that we have been participating in some meetings with some global companies with very talented folks working on these projects, and we kind of have seen a little pattern. So I would say that it's simple. I think deceptively simple. So start identifying the value opportunity or the value proposition. Because I think it sounds so straightforward, but we see repeatedly the absence of this aspect in some projects out there. So what is the desired business outcome? And then the task here is really to identify the right problem to solve or the right opportunity to pursue. And this can be quite challenging. And it might I would venture to say it might be the most challenging task, actually, the first and most challenging task. And the idea here is really think big. I think there is a lot of shortcomings there on not thinking big. So think big, create really a vision for the future, a digital vision. And but then start small, because you can't really, you have to have this where do we want to be, but you have to start small and have those quick winnings to advance, similar to any transformation process, right? So think big, have this digital vision, and but start small, and develop a digital culture. So you mentioned the word silos, right? So in a digital culture, you break the silos. You really connect everybody through data, so everybody has the same version of the truth. You create performance measures based on this data and based on the big picture, and not functionally oriented performance measures. And the idea here is really to have an organization that thinks without boundaries. So I've seen this term, think boundarless. So everybody's connected to the data, everybody's evaluated through the same data, everybody has the same version of the truth. And then finally, really prepare the workforce, communicate and prepare the workforce. So there's a lot of new technologies, working with the data, working with real-time data. It requires a different type of mindset. This digital thinking requires a different type of mindset. So really prepare the workforce. And again, it really starts with that, what is the problem that we want to solve? What is the opportunity? What is our vision? And this vision, be ambitious on this vision, but then break it down to a small, start small, and then go from there. So these are, as I said, I thought that I would give a broader view, because I have seen a lot of projects with really good people, very talented people working and doing amazing things. But I thought that aspect sometimes, as simplistic it might sound, it gets overlooked.
Thank you. Do you have another question to one of our guests today as well?
That was for me.
Yes, yes.
Oh yeah. So Marco was doing, so both of them are doing some really, they're doing amazing work out there, right? So they're advancing very interesting insights. And so I'll come back to Marco. That was the last one to be talking. So he mentioned you commented on the need for internal alignment. So how do we achieve such alignment? What is your experience, and what would you like to share with us on that journey?
Yes, it's absolutely for type of project. I described the internal alignment from the general management to all the stakeholders is absolutely essential. How we build it in Adria, we run this end-to-end process, which is, I would say, standard stage gate process, which is involving proper monitoring on project level and then proper monitoring on general management level. And then through the project work, we involved all the necessary business function. As I explained, it goes from product marketing, sales, engineering. We eventually involved also IT, which you would not usually take into the consideration in the product development, but in such type of product, they are the ones who have their proper knowledge, proper competences to help us do proper judgment. So it goes through a lot of discussions, good business case building, structuring the business case, and then defending what are the pros and cons, and what is the value added for the customer, and what is the value added for the company and for the supplier. That's yeah. This is how we went through.
Thank you. Hervé, back to you.
Yeah, excellent. The maybe I would, we're gonna get to a point where we're gonna go through some of the very last questions that we're gonna be asking our guest today. So I want to get a little bit personal, and I'll ask the same question to both of you, Clyde and Marco. So, Clyde, maybe first, what has been some of the most rewarding, personally rewarding moment in this innovation journey that you've been going on from a procurement? And, you know, maybe you can share some anecdotes where you've been thinking, I really love that job.
So I'll start with the first question, Hervé. And one of the we have our tagline at Schneider is "Life is on," and I think one of the rewarding moment, unfortunately, that was during exceptional circumstances last year during the COVID crisis, where you can realize that the work you've been doing, so securing connectivity, putting the software, is enabling all sorts of critical industry, not directly to you, but all sorts of critical industries to continue working, being hospital, being data center. And it was really instrumental during the crisis. And of course, that's a big teamwork. We are just a small part, but we are an essential part of that journey and of that ecosystem. So that's where you see that this is rewarding. And what we are doing on procurement, even though it's a little bit back offices, if we want to say so, has an impact and matters. So, and that's kind of joining what you said. I love that job, is seeing the impact that you are having by working in the background and by having really that capability to enable the company to operate even in terms of crisis. You see, okay, I'm going to work today, and I know that what I'm going to do is going to have a massive impact, not only for my company, for the society, and for our sustainable agenda.
Oh, thanks a lot. Marco, same question. What has been some of the most rewarding moments for you in this innovation journey? And, you know, share one anecdote about I love my job.
Well, I will start with the second one. What I really like in the job I do is very broad, and the product we are doing, developing and producing is the product for final consumer. And it is always something which is bringing a broad pleasure when the final consumer has a satisfaction with our product, which we simply can measure through the sales we do. And the actual pandemic situation is simply rocketing, exploding our market. And as I explained to my colleagues, we are turning out an extremely high RPMs at the moment, which is a pleasure in itself. And for the product, I'm talking, it's part of this final offering. And the very first moment of pleasure was when we formally signed the contract with the startup. And I said, yeah, we got it through. And we were at the very beginning to really be able to develop the product, bringing in time on the market, etc. And the second really moment of pleasure were the first units sold to final consumers. And we had one consumer, and it is a nice anecdote, who wanted to create in his caravan the real home office with all the internet approach, VPN, and so on. So with this product we developed, he was able, together with the help of the guys from the startup, to really head this office in his caravan. And we said, wow, we are well on track. This is the orientation is right. And the final one moment of satisfaction is just right now when we are bringing the product to the broader range of our products. And it simply proves that we were right many years ago, that we did many things right.
Thank you, Marco.
It's a pleasure when you see that together with stakeholders from all other business fields, not being in a silos, but really working together, we have something which works in the product. That makes you pushing hard for the next step.
Thank you. So, you know, maybe a good lesson for us. Next year, we're going to be running that same conference from a caravan in the middle of the countryside.
Fantastic, Hervé. I like it.
By Schneider Electric.
And the technology, Marco, you will have your own VPN, will work better than in my house.
Good, good.
Fantastic. Thanks to the three of you. It's been so great to have, like, you know, for the rest of the conference, some of my procurement heroes with me today. It's really been a pleasure to have the three of you with me for this roundtable. Thanks again.
Thank you.
guys. It's a pleasure.
So I would like to ask Aldric Vignon to join me now, because it's going to be time for our synthesis. So, you know, I'd like to hear your reactions after all these exchanges we've just got.
Thank you, Hervé, for giving me the phone, the mic back. It has been a wonderful journey from the first roundtable we concluded yesterday and this final one. So I'm pleased to have the opportunity to bring you some of my insight on investing in new technology. You've just led a wonderful conversation, which has brought a lot of content and some concrete example of technology disruption in the business, and also toward procurement activities. So the move to digital is now up and running and is strongly accelerating in a fast and changing environment. So when we link procurement to digital, we are, from my view, facing two different situations. The first one is around the impact of digital on procurement way of working and performance, and I will elaborate on this one. And the second one is also the ability of procurement to bring new digital services to the company to support the business. So let's build on the first one around the digital impact on procurement way of working. So I'm fully in line with Ed when he talked about visibility. Many companies are still lacking vision on the suppliers network as a whole. I've noted that the ones which have sailed properly over the last year in the storm were the one with an integrated and really digital view on supplier data and supplier network. So I must confess that procurement digital roadmaps are not always clear and sometimes are really focused on transaction without any vision. Vision described by Ed a few minutes ago. So I think it could be a good start to start from transaction, but for sure data is key and supplier network should become a must. I have also noticed that data was part of all the conversation we had yesterday and today as well. And but how far can we go into transparency without losing traction for efficiency? I think that's what Ed said. So how to explain that investment in technology for procurement are not at the right level in many companies. So if I'm a little bit provocative, I must say that HR, finance, they have often more budget to bring digital into their practices than procurement. So there are still some work to do here to convince where to put the effective money. I would like also to highlight the challenge of data continuity from product design to suppliers through manufacturing and finally to customer. This continuity will bring lots of value to the whole ecosystem, but how many systems and interface to go through? And who is in charge of all this complex flow? So I guess that could be one of the stakes for procurement and supplier relationship in the future. My second point is around the supplier business model major shift. It was mentioned by Clyde, but finding suppliers, new partners to support the business is as usual, part of the mission of procurement. And some organizations are already today installing some kind of routine with their existing suppliers portfolio and the way they were used to introduce new sources to the business. So now scouting, early discovery, deep market understanding are now put into the light more than before. And with the supplier model disruption we are facing from product sales to service delivery, I think procurement skills should evolve to support the business changes. So it requires several competencies and skills such as technology understanding, working with unstable specification. We need to have improved IP's capabilities, and it has been mentioned during the roundtable. Legal understanding the legal impact of all these new contracts, the data, GDPR, etc., and also understanding the impact on the business, so the end of the chain. So it has been confirmed by Claes a few minutes ago. That's really key today. So technology could help procurement to drive all those activities, but I think from my perspective that the real barrier is the mindset of the buyers. So understanding the new supplier's business model and the benefit it could bring to the company is now, I must say, mandatory. There is no option. So, but let's be clear, it's a complex task, I think, to understand all the underlying risks and consequences of the technology choice made by the supplier, the impact on the company technology choices, and eventually on the customer ones. So, Hervé, that was my 2 cents. So, do you have any other insights you would like to share to close this roundtable?
Yeah, thank you, Aldric. I think it's we need to reflect on the meaning of digital technologies on our economies, on our society these days. And I think that we've been hearing about the two companies, and these companies are part of a very big movement that's really putting out software out of the equipments, out of infrastructure, out of product. And what we see happening is really the emergence of a software-defined world, of a world where software is orchestrating, human activities and the economic, but also on our day-to-day level. And I think we need to, really pay attention and understand how much our contribution is coming from digitalizing our procurement process versus supporting companies gaining access, to the capabilities that help, build this software-defined world. Data is used now in real time, sometimes to automate actions, sometimes, as we've seen as part of the COVID period, to enable flexibility, repurpose what we have in terms of digital assets to quickly make a difference, but also to augment human decisions, to help all of us take better decisions. And we've seen, quite a lot of examples from this throughout the 2 days, and more specifically in the last hour. But I think we need to, really see this process emerging. It's not about little islands, but it's a big whole that's being through this process. And data volume, data veracity, data variety, data velocity, and we've heard it, data security will be paramount in this transformation. Now that transformation, procurement has a pivotal role to play in it. Because we need to be business-minded to make it happen. All of this technology, and it's not just like software, but it's also connectivity technology, it's also hardware, we need to bring them together. We need to build new architectures that are supporting the business going forwards into this different world. And some of them are not coming from the traditional supplier. Maybe if we simply want to digitalize an existing production process, if we want to digitalize some of the more administrative process, that can come from our traditional supplier. But in order to be able to truly make business model transformation thanks to digital, that really requires to go and build connections, build relationship, build trust with unfamiliar partner. And we had outstanding example from both speakers on these different elements. Most of the digital solutions, we need to understand what is really bringing us a true added value. What is making the difference? What are the elements that we should be keeping control of, and making sure that we can recreate this form of a vertical integration at the right point into the value chain. So ensuring we get some form of exclusive access to some of the assets, but not trying to control everything else around. There's plenty of capabilities out there that are leveraging open source hardware, open source software, and a new set, a new world of capabilities coming from the digital giants that we need to be able to harness, while making sure we retain control on what is really making a difference from a business point of view. And this will lead us to see the 5th generation of buyers, span their wings, being able to, bring some of their suppliers to visit some of the customers and clients, creating within the ecosystem, the right exchange, the right, mix and melding of knowledge coming from the supply and the demand side. And this is very exciting time. This is very interesting development that we can have in front of us. And yes, we'll need some very key skills for that. But I think I would also concur to what I've heard today earlier. A lot of the people who have working with us, working for us, have that capability. They've got that desire, not just to, procure something, but to contribute to the business, to contribute to society. So again, that's really exciting time for all the buyers around the world to be part of that change. Thank you.
Thank you, Hervé.
Back to Bernard, I think.
Thank you very much. Close to the end, I was thinking that people were sleeping, so they were not ready to stop you, or they were so amazed by your speech that people were still waiting for more. So thanks very much, Hervé. Thank you very much, Aldric, for this synthesis. It's time to close these 2 sessions. It was just great. I'm not going to make another synthesis on the synthesis. I just want to put some words after the words. Just to say what just the points mentioned by Hervé. We are part of a business. So this is the first point. Is we took some topics which were not necessarily only purchasing procurement topics, but which were related to purchasing and procurement, but which were business oriented. And we understand that purchasing procurement is part of a business, it's related to a business. And we have to work with the business. It's supporting the business. Well, our role is to help business to sell more. Our role is to help the business to sell better. So we have to think about that, and perhaps we have to think in terms of all the elements we spoke about, the technologies, the risks, and we need somehow to take some decision in terms of people, in terms of organization, in terms of process. So first point is, as been mentioned by Hervé, is about the business. We understood also about reshoring. Reshoring is not only to bring suppliers back to us, but is to relocate them closer from our different sites, wherever in the world. And the word brought by Dominique about global proximity is qualifying pretty well this new idea. Reshoring is to relocate close from our sites. It's really this global proximity about. We also understood that suppliers network management is not only about managing companies working for us, but is being capable to be selected by some suppliers. So it's the other way around. It's not we're not speaking about buying, we're speaking about selling our needs. And we have been speaking for a long time about the role of purchasing to sell. Yes, but now we have to sell our needs to be selected by the suppliers. So the suppliers network management is really had to be selected by the suppliers to be as a preferred clients. We also understood that we need new profiles, as we just mentioned. We need new profile with very high competencies, not only on this typical technical competencies about cost, about supplier selection, about negotiation, but much more competencies on business with new behavior. We just said because purchasing is part of a business. We need these competencies also in relation with internal business partner and internal business partner, because we understood that they are drivers of these elements. So we need this type of new competencies. Just thinking not only technical competencies, but thinking about the relation, rethinking about the behavior. We understood also that all these changes are supported and helped by technologies. And it's not really the other way around, because what is driving change is not the technology, it is the people. is about more and more precisely the leaders. So technology, yes, but the technology being brought by people for people and helped by the technology. So this is a very important aspect also. We also understood that the world is shrinking, embedded in this virtual relations. And this is the reason why, as just mentioned Hervé now, we have to be very optimistic about this new world, this new, as I said yesterday, this new renaissance, this rinascimento, as said the Italian. We need to go forward. We need to be optimistic with this new relation. We have to go toward the 5th generation purchasing when past meets power. So let's think about that. So just it's a great moment for us, and to conclude this journey, these 2 sessions, I really would like to thank all our speakers, the moderators who have been working with us. I want to also to thank you, all of you who have been on YouTube and VK. Thank you to the complete team who transformed this virtual ID in a very nice realization, permitting to connect the world. Over 800 participants now with 40 countries, 12 different speakers, and so on and so forth. So we used to get, as I said, as an introduction, a very big conference with a lot of interaction with nice people taking coffee and so on and so forth. Today, we got much more people around the world. So this world is really shrinking, and it was just great. Thank you to our colleague from Argo & Co, who have been wonderful partners. Thank you to the team, EIPM team, to Natalia, Cecilia, Eric, and a very, very big thanks to Hervé, the thinker of this event, and to Fred, the show director. So, it was a show, and we need a director. So thanks to all of them, and thanks to the rest of the team who has still been working while we were getting through the show. So this 2 days conference, have been let's say, a milestone of this 30th anniversary, EIPM 30th anniversary. We're not going to go for a complete ceremony for this 30th anniversary, but we're going to have a lot of different things during these years, a lot of webinars, which are already online on the EIPM website calendars. So a lot of we're going to these webinars. We're testing a face-to-face CPO roundtable. So we're inviting the CPOs, just checking if it's time or not to go back to face-to-face. I know we are fed up of this virtual meeting we have been part of. We're going to have also the different sessions. So this is the 30th anniversary. So if you like these 2 sessions, and yesterday and today's sessions, they'll be on YouTube and VK channel starting on Monday. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you to you who have been staying in front of your computer for looking at us. We'll be back, as I said yesterday. You can start changing some little things before the world is changing you. So let's go on. Thank you very much. Gracias, muito obrigado. Danke, grazie, chokran, sheshe, vlam, vam. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir et à très bientôt. Take care of yourself. Thanks a lot. It was great to be with you.
that supply management idea become more and more accepted.